Hello and welcome. It's me, Percita, and this is Percita's Paradox. Thank you so much for joining me today. I greatly appreciate you, your time, effort, and energy in finding me on this thing called YouTube. If you're new to this channel, thank you so much for joining me today. And if you are an original, an OG, a all-time supporter of this channel, thank you so much for your continued support. So, wanted to come to you today. I was really feeling a little apprehensive about my day today. It was kind of strange. I think I am in a space of just really pondering things that are going on around me in regards to just, life and how words are expressed and if they're really meaning anything anymore. I just feel like people are kind of speaking just as any aspect of just letting the words flow with absolutely no intent of executing what they're saying or just not understanding the malice that comes behind that. Just weird, right? Just really feel it as if like the intent of most people and their words right now are just not adding up. So I wanted to come to you today and really do a video in regards to that and just see, one, how you felt about it, and also just give me an opportunity to kind of express my thoughts for today. So the question is, do your words line up with your actions? I'll go deeper. Are you manipulating with your words? And you may say, well, that's a harsh statement. And, I doubt very seriously if anyone could honestly look themselves in the mirror and be honest enough to answer that question without some bit of an excuse. And what I mean by that is I think we all have a tendency to be able to utilize the idea that we can and may often use our words as manipulation. But my point would be, are you trying to be as conscious as possible to not let that happen? And what I mean by that is there's so many times in life you're asked to do things, right? And you're asked to put yourself in a position that may not be as comfortable as you want it to be. I'm wondering, how many times have you actually said something, promised something via words, expressed something via words that wasn't really true to the alignment of what was in your heart? You may say, well, girl, wouldn't that be malicious? I mean, to some degree. To some degree, we can't really be, opposed to the idea of you're not really trying to manipulate a situation. Prime example. Been plenty of times that I've asked people to do things in my life. And let me go back and say that I actually remember when I was in this place, right? And let me refer it that way. So let me say there were times in my life, in my past, where people would ask me to do things, right? And I wholeheartely knew as they were asking me to do it that I had no intent to do it. But I also understood they were the type of people that if I said that I was going to do it, that would allow me more time. And what I mean by allowing me more time is that I understood that the person was the type of person that would really just want me to express myself and be in a space where I'm actually acknowledging that I hear what they're asking me to do, and that then I'm verbalizing my regret and my sorrowfulness for it. And then from that point, my words then express that I plan to change. Now, I want to say 9 times out of 10, when I was not ready to do it, I would just say the words. And I would say the words wholeheartedly because I really knew that that's all the person really wanted to hear. And in that time of saying those words, but the particular words that they wanted to hear, the person would allot me more time. And if they allotted me more time, then I could still keep up with my BS because they would then give me room to change. And I would then continuously tell them how I needed this room to change because, this is new to me and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, right? And I really am trying to start a new leaf, and you're really just being so hard on me because you want me to change immediately, and it's going to take a process, just like it took a process for me to actually get to this place. Well, 9 times out of 10, if you're hearing that from a person, they have no intent to change. And I'm going to tell you that wholeheartedly because I know that was where I used to be. Now you may say, well, that's crazy, girl, because didn't you just say that you changed? But when I was in that place, I had no intention to change. That is a completely different space. That is a pre-contemplational place. That is really thinking of the thought of possibly thinking about that you might change, but it has absolutely nothing to do with change. Really what I was doing was just addressing the threat that I felt that I would lose the relationship with whomever the person was that was giving me that, let's call it a mandate or a position of threat that they would no longer be in my life. And it was just something that I needed to do for the moment. But keep in mind that I also know that that person had asked me to do whatever it was, or a derivative of whatever it was before. And they had given me chance after chance after chance. And I just was going to run the gamble of them giving me another chance. This is always sad, because then when you say that, you find yourself saying, or does it even pay, right, to give people multiple chances? And does it really behoove you to want to do that? To some degree, you really have to use your discernment. I mean, I understand that forgiveness is something that everyone is allotted. And I think forgiving someone and then feeling like you have to let that person back into your life is not the same thing. To forgive is to simply forgive and understand that the person wronged you and that you probably have wronged someone. So therefore, you're not going to hold them hostage that they're just the worst person in the world, because you understand that. But to allow someone back in is a trust problem. That's not a forgiving problem. And because of that, it's two different things altogether. People try to combine the two, but in all honesty, they're two different things altogether. So you can absolutely forgive and still have trust that you're not interested in being a part of with the person. Usually the person who comes at you as if like, if you forgive me, you would then trust me again, sounds crazy, because that would be a crazy statement. If you've been bitten before, you're going to be conscious that you've been bitten. You may forgive the thing or person that bit you, but you're still going to be conscious, shell-shocked, have triggers about the trauma that you experience. So if you notice, then it wouldn't make any sense to really make that statement. But again, that would be the manipulation of words, because the guilt then comes on the person who's already been inflicted with the pain, who now is then subjected to have words thrown back at them that they should then not feel what they're feeling, because it's making the person who wronged them feel bad. So if you catch it, it becomes a really comical and ridiculous situation. What you do not want is to allow that to happen in your relationships. So you want to be conscious of the manipulation of words, which is why I said what I said. It is very complicated. I'm smiling because it's mind-blowing on how many people still use this tactic. Now, I say still use it because I learned very quickly that the only person that I was really hurting when I did that was myself. Because then you would find yourself, meaning I would find myself, in a space of isolation and in a space of never really feeling good enough for anything. And in a space of wondering when the shoe would fall that the person would really catch on that I was lying, basically. And just completely manipulating their kindness. When was I going to experience just really feeling all of what I was inflicting on the person? And it took a while for me to really understand what I was saying to you, because it had been something that my family and friends had allowed because they were really trying to save me, even though they all would pretty well have told you back in the day, like, you know, we know that she could be better, but she's just not trying. But it was also something that I just didn't really think that I could be anything but. Like, I didn't really believe that I had that ability to really be enough for anyone. Now, I could make all of that, you know, like the do all, say all, and wash my hands and go, see, that's what it was, and that's why I had to do it, and that's why I manipulated words. Or I could tell you that I then had to grow up. And I had to understand that all of that was coming from myself, and anything that I was allowing to put me in a place that I felt as if I could not just be genuinely honest and just be myself and show up as myself and be fine in myself was a lie. It took me really understanding from someone who actually had to get in my butt about what I was doing and call me on it, for me to really comprehend what I was doing and if it really mattered, that I wanted to stop doing it, because I did not like how I made that person feel, and I did not like being confronted about it. I'm a huge proponent on people who still have those traits to be confronted. It equates to anything in life. I mean, if you were or are an alcoholic, but you're not willing to address the fact that you're an alcoholic and you're offended when someone calls you an alcoholic, then that addiction will absolutely have complete power over you, because you're not really willing to confront who you are. Doesn't mean that's who you have to remain, but it does have to be who you are. And I think this is where I have to say that drawing the line on understanding that some people will literally just use words because they know that that's what you want, because they understand that that's going to be enough to give them more time, because they are in a space of really not wanting to change, but want to not lose you as well, can be tricky. And it's very complicated because a lot of us really just want the words and the actions to line up. But you have to be careful because there are still a lot of people who will only use the words in order to gain more time. And in that time, it's funny because you actually become battered to it, because you really do want to believe in the person, and you get subjected to all of the reasons on why you should give them more time. And, it just becomes a spin of you rethinking logic, you rethinking what you know to be true, because you have to actually be a part of the chaos, the lie, the minutia, the manipulation in order for it to work. And typically a sane person becomes a part of it, or becomes battered even, becomes a part of, the narcissistic manipulational game, not because you didn't know what you were seeing and hearing when you got in, but because you become a believer of the person changing based on the words that they are telling you. And when I say go back and listen to that 3 or 4 times, it's heartbreaking, because you start to recognize that you are literally a part of something that'll never really manifest. Because if you catch it, there's never really any sense of change. The only change is the victim. The only change for a person who keeps that mindset, and I promise you, I've seen some well into their 40s, 50s, 60s. Like, this is not something that is necessarily young. People that are definitely still spinning those stories like that and still using their words that way are not in a space of really wanting to change. And it's sad, because you really can see how great the person actually is, but the lack of desire to want to do the work for whatever reason. I mean, it could be a plethora of things. It could be where they don't really believe in themselves. It could be, that they have been told all these things and now they're believing it. But catch how it still will all evolve around the core foundation of self-worth and self-discipline. It is so easy to make excuses in life. It is so easy to put yourself in a position where you're constantly saying that you're a victim to whatever society in the world and your family and your job and your relationships have given you. And that's all true, because we all have some sense of history and we all have a story. All of us, like absolutely every single one of us, right? But the truth remains, and your destiny is not determined by where you came from. It's determined by where you're going, and only you can decide on where you're going, from a mental place, from a spiritual place, and from a physical place. So I just want to really challenge you today to really not do that, to really not put yourself in a position where you're just speaking words to gain time, because you really have no desire to change. Be as honest as you can, not only with yourself, but with whatever the situation is or whomever is in the situation, and tell them what's really happening. And don't waste your time or other people's time, because it's terrible to do it that way. And not only is it terrible, it's selfish. And not only is it selfish, it's malicious. It's malicious. So I said all that to say, I am rooting for you. And I think that we all are striving to be great people, and we all are striving to be purposeful, and we all are striving to be intentional. But I warn you, right, that if you are not honest with yourself first, if you are not truthful with yourself first, then everything else will fall by the wayside. Everything else will fall by the wayside. So, as always, if you have been with me this far, thank you so much for listening. I greatly appreciate you today. I greatly appreciate your time in coming to the end of this video. If you could be so kind as to like, share, subscribe, hit me in the comments, recommend it to other people in your life, watch other videos on this channel, whatever you can do to support, I would greatly, greatly, greatly appreciate it. Make sure that you also hit the notification buttons, because YouTube has really been a little special these days, and I may or may not get up. And that's not because I am not trying to load up. It is simply because it is taking that long for my videos to load up. I don't know if that's anyone else's problem but mine, but I'm just being honest. So Wednesdays and Fridays are, again, where I'm currently striving. I used to be Tuesday and Thursday, and now we're striving for Wednesday and Friday. So look out for that. And all those other good things that I just said. But before you can do those things, I need you to do 3 things. And those 3 things are live life authentic. As always, thank you so much for joining me. I greatly appreciate you, and I look forward to seeing you later on. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.